Greetings. How you doing, guys? Let's get into this today. As a reminder, my name is Lisa Edwards. I'm the CEO of the Exclusive Career, which is a job search, career coaching, and document preparation boutique practice. My other podcast is the Exclusive Career, where I talk about all things career management, executive leadership, really moving you up the corporate ladder. Last week's episode was on how to have better one-on-one meetings with your boss, which we all have one of those. And if you have direct reports, I cover that as well. So, what are the mindset shifts that are needed, the logistical shifts? What's a proposed structure for a meeting? And then I give you 6 tips to improve the quality of your meetings. All right, today we're going to dig into job dissatisfaction today. What I see over and over again with folks who come to me around this issue of dissatisfaction is that very often they don't have the perspective on what the actual problem is. They don't they don't know whether it's the job they're in at that company, if it is the job field they're in, period, or if it is their employer. They don't know whether to, as the expression goes, throw the baby out with the bathwater or just simply find the same job or the next job up in the on the ladder, but at a new company. I talked about this to begin with back in episode 61, so I'm bringing that content into this one with a whole lot of new information. I want to start with the concept of dissatisfaction. And step one here is to really analyze what you are dissatisfied about. Journaling is a great tool here. What actually is going on that you are dissatisfied about? Being as specific as you can on a really day-to-day basis so that you get sort of, some data, maybe over 30 days or even 2 weeks. And then really looking at those things that you are dissatisfied with and determining how big of an impediment are they to your job satisfaction. I'm going to give you some examples, but are these deal breakers, unequivocally deal breakers, or are they something that can be managed? And if so, is it something that could be managed ongoing, or could it be managed just in the short term until you find that new job, but you still really want to change jobs? So here's an example. If you were dissatisfied with the company because it's had 3 rounds of layoffs and more are rumored to come, you're probably more dissatisfied with the company. There might be also issues with the job, but that's not what's in that, scenario. You are dissatisfied with the company. You are feeling like you are on quicksand as far as the company is concerned. I actually just spoke to someone this week who the company is, I think she gave me the number. They were eliminating their workforce by 30%. And she hasn't been let go yet, but they've given her time when the next round of layoffs is coming, and she's concerned about that. She is dissatisfied. So your options in this situation is number one, you could have a discussion with your boss to talk about how to avoid being laid off. Maybe he or she will give you some honest answers. Maybe they won't. But what could you do? Could you take on additional responsibilities? Is there another perhaps safer area of the company that you could move into? With any of that, doesn't mean that you have to stay in that new role or in that new department forever, but could it be a way to give you more runway in order to effectively job search? You might also reasonably choose the option of beginning to look for the same or a higher job in another organization that appears to be more financially secure. So you may decide then, hey, I don't want to talk to the boss. There's nothing maybe you don't have a great relationship with your boss. Maybe you have reason to believe that your boss will not be open and honest with you. And you decide, hey, I want to start looking. Another scenario would be you're dissatisfied with your boss because she has thrown you under the bus 4 times in the past 6 months. Very concrete, provable, factual, thrown under the bus. And you are probably in that situation, dissatisfied with your job because of your boss. Because unless you know something about the boss going elsewhere, they're a package deal, right? That job is going to have that boss. So your option then in that situation, can you look around the organization to see what other opportunities might be available to you, or do you want to just start looking elsewhere for a new job? A third scenario is you've been in the same career field for X number of years, pick the number, and you find that the work no longer energizes you, that whatever it was that you found meaning and value in before kind of doesn't hold true for you anymore. Or perhaps the nature of the work. I've seen that with a lot of people. The way that what attracted them to the job when they started in that career field is no longer the case, and they don't enjoy it as much. You find yourself maybe researching other career fields, thinking maybe even about self-employment whenever you have a free moment. So your mind is definitely going elsewhere. This is a scenario that is really good for a career coach's help. And this is not going to be a big commercial about career coaching, although obviously I believe very deeply in it. But with that kind of a situation, you want to make an informed decision. You don't want to just, again, throw the baby out with the bathwater. And also knowing that you want to change fields, even if you come into a coaching arrangement saying, I absolutely don't want to be in my current career field any longer. That's a huge leap to knowing what you want to go into, knowing how to get a job in that new industry, in that new field, and having marketing materials that will sell you for this new field or this new industry. I want to give you a final scenario. Now, there's limitless possibilities here, but I'm going to give you one more. You are struggling to work collaboratively with a coworker. We're going to call him Jeff. He takes credit for your work. He doesn't loop you in on meetings or important decisions. He takes advantage of every opportunity to sort of quote unquote tattle on you to the boss. So, kind of the same situation as with the previous boss, but now we have a coworker who is throwing us under the bus. While you have all of the options that I've already talked about, there's also the option of changing your mindset about Jeff. Here's what you need to know. You can't change Jeff. You cannot change Jeff. You can't change your boss. You can't change anyone but yourself. But you can change the experience that you have of Jeff by changing your thoughts about Jeff. And that can make all the difference. Doesn't mean you want to stay there and continue to get undermined by Jeff. It doesn't mean that you might not take other steps to move yourself away from having to work with Jeff or work alongside Jeff. What it does mean is that that's not going to happen immediately. And unless you just love being miserable and love hating your job and love coming home, and I'm sure your family just loves it when you come home every day complaining about Jeff, let's change our mindset about Jeff. There's no harm in that. It doesn't mean that how we think about Jeff doesn't affect Jeff's behavior whatsoever. It only affects our experience of our work. So we can work on that. And that's, again, something really good to work with a career coach on. All right. So the next thing we want to do is analyze your current situation. So we've talked about kind of trying to figure out what it is that you're dissatisfied about, but I want to give you some specific questions to ask yourself. And again, journaling is amazing. There is something about getting it out of your brain, putting it on paper. It gets more organized. It tends to keep us from either catastrophizing or sugarcoating things in our brain when we can see them in so-called black and white. And it also tends to give you more factual information, right? You're going to have your opinions and your biases and all of that down there, but you can also put your factual information about the situation down there. I recommend that you take your time with this journaling, put it down, come back to it later. Don't try to do it all in one sitting. And you might also want to have someone else look at your answers and provide feedback. Obviously, not somebody at work, unless it is a super close colleague that you feel completely safe with, but a significant other in lieu of a coach. The reason for showing it to someone else is that they can pick up on blind spots, they can pick up on biases, and they can pick up on themes that you might be blind to. All right. So here are some questions. This is going to be divided, by the way, into your current job questions and your career field questions. So about your current job, and this is something where, if you're driving, obviously you're not copying these questions down. So of course you can listen to this again or go to the show notes and get a copy of these questions. So, number one, what do I love about my current job and why do I love it? Notice we're starting with the positives. What's great about my current job? Next, what percentage of my work week is spent doing or being around the things I just listed in question number one? So, there's these things I love. What percentage of my work week am I doing them? Number three, what motivated skills do I possess that aren't being used in my current job? Motivated skills, and I've talked about them in other podcasts. These are things at the crossroad of what you love doing and are very good at. Those are called motivated skills. The skills that you don't love doing but are very good at are called burnout skills. We want to stay away from them, obviously. And AI, if you go into AI, I'm sure if you say, provide me with a motivated skills activity or point me in the direction of one, you would get one. I have one that I use with my clients. You can find them out there. And the best ones will force you to limit your motivated skills so that you don't just have, 40 things, but it might say, five or six of your things that you want to make sure are present in a job. And what we're identifying here in this question is what are the ones that I've identified that aren't being used or maybe used very little? So that's number three about motivated skills. Number four, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 equals not at all possible and 5 is totally possible, what is the opportunity for me to use each of these motivated skills I listed in my current job? So we list this thing, and I would say a 5 is something maybe that you're already using. Hey, I am fully utilizing that motivated skill. A 1 would be something I am not using now, and I don't see a possibility for me to use it in my current job. And then 2, 3, and 4 are somewhere in between there. And you want to explain your rating for each. So rather than just arbitrarily throwing numbers down, explain your answers. So that's number four. What is the opportunity to use these motivated skills you've just identified in your current role? The next question, if I were to reconfigure my current job, what 2 to 3 changes would I make? Now, this could be job duties you would want to offload or onboard. It could be something about your work environment. It could be something about the style of management that you're under. It could be anything else. So, 2 or 3 changes. I don't know too many of us that can't think of 2 or 3 things that even if we love our job, 2 or 3 things. The next question, 1 year from now, here is what I would like my work life to look like. And I want you to describe this in as much detail as possible. Really paint the picture of what your work life would look like. And you can do that on like a slice, a day in the life. It could be over the course of a week. It's really going to depend on the sort of the cadence of the work that you do. Is it cyclical? Week by week? Is it cyclical? Every month is different. And take that into consideration. But you really want to paint that picture of the perfect work life for yourself as clearly as possible. And then the last question about your current job is on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 equaling no similarity whatsoever and 5 equaling completely similar. How well does my current job fit with my description number 6? So in number 6, that was that perfect work life. And then I'm going to evaluate on a scale of 1 to 5 how closely my current role matches. And here at the end, after the next set of questions, I'm going to give you a bit of a key, if you will, to grade yourself. The next set of questions is about your career field. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the difference, let me real quickly. A career field is something like accounting, teaching, engineering, nursing, administrative assistant, operations, right? It's a very broad field. But within that career field, there are lots of jobs, whether those are, when I think of accounting, Maybe that's fairly narrow. Maybe I started as a staff accountant and I move up, and those are individual job titles. Other career fields, like if I were in the career field of the law. I think that's a good one. I find lawyers kind of doing everything. And some of them make sense for a law degree and not some others, not so much. But within a degree in law, so the career field that I'm in is law, I could be in private practice, I could be public defender, I could do one of my friend's husbands is the vice president of advancement for a university, and he has a law degree, and he finds that that comes in very handy in like doing some of the bequeathing work that advancement does. Like here, when I die, I'm going to give this to the university. He can set all of that up because he's a lawyer. So they required a law degree. They wanted someone with a law degree, but it's not the typical field. So those are the kind of jobs, and there's lots of jobs within any career field. So now we're going to talk about career field. Number one, first thing you want to do is write the career field that you're in and the reason that you initially chose that field, whether that was back when started college, first job out of college, or 5 years ago. What's the career field? Number two, on a scale of 1 to 5, with one doesn't fit at all, five equals perfect fit. How well does my current job fit into my career field? Now, if it doesn't fit into your career field, that's not a bad thing. We just want to note it, right? Okay, I'm over here doing this thing. Something to think about, right? How did I get over here? Was that intentional? Was it reactive? Something to think about. The next question, what would the logical next step be in my current career field? So I think this is something to think about, right? If number two, if I'm off over here and my career field is here, what's the next logical step? And do I want it to be over here or do I want to be back over here? Right? So it's that intentionality of really thinking about this and what your next step should be. Next question. On a scale of 1 to 5, with one not at all exciting and five complete excitement, how thrilled am I with that next logical step? Do I get more excited about the next step over here? Do I get more excited about the next step over here? Am I not excited about any of it, right? 1 to 5. And then the next question, do I fantasize about a different career field? Please describe. Now, if you tell me I've never thought about a different career field ever, I'm going to call you a liar. And here's the reason. You can be completely happy in your current career field, as am I. But I will tell you that I fantasize about being a travel writer. I don't even know if that exists anymore with AI, and I don't know. But the idea, the old school notion of traveling all over the world, like getting to stay in cool places, writing about it, maybe promoting different tourism sites and events. Man, that just sounds perfect. So I have other things that I think about in the middle. For quite a while there, I was convinced I wanted to be an interior designer. Then I read a book on what you have to do to be an interior designer, and I didn't want to know about electrical outlets and load-bearing walls. So I left that career field as a possibility. So what is this career field that I fantasize about? Describe it. The next question, what perceived barriers do I think there are in pursuing that different career field? What are the barriers? I want to look at it up close. I don't want to dismiss it. If I've been fantasizing about it, I want to look at it closely. And then I want to know not only what are those barriers that I perceive, but how difficult do I perceive those barriers to be to overcome? Are they impossible? Perfect example, what would be an impossibility? I am too old to become an FBI agent. They literally cut me off at, I want to say it's like 42 years old or something like that. You can't join the FBI. I may be making that number up, but I know there is a number. I could not go into the military. There are other things that physically I couldn't do. So I might be fantasizing about, I don't know, you could fantasize about having a cat rescue, but you are deathly allergic to cats. You see the problem. So you really want to look at that, the perceived barriers and how difficult to overcome those barriers would be. And then the final question, on a scale of 1 to 5, with one not at all interested at this time, and number five equaling exceptionally interested at this time, how interested am I in pursuing that fantasy career field? Now, notice I said at this time very intentionally. Doesn't mean you're throwing it out forever. There are seasons to your life, and there may become a season for you to do that thing. Not now, is what you're saying. All right. So now we want to talk about what you do with this self-knowledge. And again, please get a copy of these so that you can really think about them and journal them. With both of these, your answers to the last question in each of the groups, career, job, and career field, are going to give you the information. So when we go to the job one, and as a reminder, that question is on a scale of 1 to 5, with one no similarity whatsoever, and number five completely similar, how well does my current job fit with my description of the perfect job for me? And if you scored on that less than a 3, so if we think 1 to 5, 3 is kind of right in the middle. If you scored less than a 3 on that question, then I recommend that you at least give some thought to thinking about a job search. It's probably time. And you want to do this at a time when you are not unduly influenced. And what I mean by that is it could be something really bad or really good that kind of skews your answers. You want to kind of do this at a time when you feel like you're at the average in terms of how you would answer these questions. So if it's below 3, think about a job search. By answering a question that low, you have essentially said that your current job bears little resemblance to your ideal job. Very little resemblance. And again, always working with a career coach, job search coach is going to be a great idea to help you with this. What's important is to decide what you want to do about this dissatisfaction that you've identified and then make a plan to do it, right? It does you no good if you're just going to go through these exercises and say, I knew it. I hate my job. End of story. Meeting with someone like me, have a complimentary consult. Talk to someone about mapping out a plan, me or someone else. You don't want to just wallow in the knowledge that you have now proven that you hate your job. All right, next one. If you, on that last question about your career field, which is on a scale of 1 to 5, with one not at all interested at this time, and number five equals exceptionally interested at this time, if you scored more than a 3 on that question, then I would recommend that you think about a career shift. You have shown a great deal of interest in a new career field if you've answered that high. So you are above the mid range, at least have the conversation. Now, it's quite possible that you will score low in the first session. So low job dissatisfaction or low dissat. It is quite possible that you will score low in the first section about your job satisfaction and show a great deal of dissatisfaction with your career field, but you don't have any idea of what you would move to. So you really got stumped on thinking about something else. Like you haven't allowed yourself to think about that. And in those situations, that's where you really want the help of a qualified career coach to take you through some exercises, maybe run some assessments with you to really generate those possibilities. I also want to say the other important difference in this kind of a transition, when you are working with a career coach, you are being held accountable. You are much more likely to take action when you know that an unbiased professional like me is holding you accountable and calling you out with compassion on your excuses. So they're not letting you get away with your excuses. They are holding your feet to the fire, so to speak, but with compassion. I also want to say it can be really hard to look at yourself objectively to determine what steps you might want to take. You may be very aware of your job dissatisfaction, your career dissatisfaction, whatever it is, but working with a career coach and combining that with journaling and self-assessment activities can really be the key to making the right decision for yourself. The final thing I want to say Knowing that you are on the path that you've chosen for yourself, that you have made an informed decision to make a change, is going to help you when the going gets rough. Whether you're doing a job search, you're trying to get into a new career field, it can make the difference between a successful job search and giving up. If you decide to stay after you do this homework, you're like, hey, I'm not that unhappy, or the timing is wrong. I recognize that this is really important and I need to make a change, but there is this thing in my life. And because of this thing in my life or the thing at work, I don't think now is the right time to make this change. You want to really work on your mindset. And again, a career coach can be very helpful with that. Okay, I'm here. I can't go anywhere for now, but I want to have a more positive work experience. And if you decide to change career fields, it can mean the difference between persevering through a more difficult job search. And it will be a more difficult job search because you are changing career fields, changing maybe industries as well. You don't want to give up after a few no's because you really didn't have, you weren't confident that you had made the right decision in the first place. So it gets tough, you give up. I don't want that for you. So I hope this has given you some perspective on how to think about the situation that you may very well be in right now and some questions to ask yourself. Again, get a copy of them from the show notes. And if there's anything I can do to help you with that, let me know. And I'll see you back here in 2 weeks, and I'll see you on my other podcast next week. Take care.